All right. Well, welcome everyone. Hey, this is Tom Buford and welcome to the Attorney Success Podcast, the show where we interview, get to know, and learn from some of the top attorneys in the United States. And I'm excited to introduce this week's guest, Mike Hancock from Hancock Injury Attorneys in Tampa, Florida. Mike has deep empathy for people that have been involved in serious accidents because they've all experienced some kind of loss, and many times they just don't know what to do next. Mike has dedicated his 30-year career to handling the recovery process for people who've suffered these losses so that their lives can get back to normal. So Mike, welcome. Really happy to have you here on the podcast. And we had a pretty lengthy conversation before now, so it's fun.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, you bet. So what is it that got you involved in law in the first place?
You know, I don't really have one of those stories where, one particular thing happened in my life that wanted me to go into law. But actually, the true story is my best friend growing up. We've known each other to this day, but we've known each other since we were 8 years old here in Tampa. Played baseball together, went to high school together, went to college together, law school together. His dad was a lawyer, and kind of being involved over at his house, and just as kids do, saw what his dad did. It intrigued me. Saw that his dad pretty much had the same type of practice where he had a personal injury practice and helped people who had been injured through others' negligence. And that's what really got me interested in the law.
So was it right out of the gate, it was going into personal injury, or were there other types of law that were interested?
In law school, I don't think I really had, going into law school, other than that connection with my friend's dad. I didn't really have an idea of exactly what I wanted to do, but in law school, I pretty much worked my way through law school, was lucky enough to get a job as a law clerk for pretty much the whole 3 years. And it was a very good personal injury law firm out in Houston, Texas, where I went to law school. And so from early on in law school, I pretty much had an idea. This is the field I wanted to go into. And then as you go through the classes throughout your 3 years of law school, you kind of like, okay, I can cross probate off my list. I can cross, contracts, business law off my list. Then I pretty much had an opportunity to have what's known as a summer clerkship with this, national law firm of 350 lawyers. And they did more of, as an example, one of their biggest clients was the general contractor that was building a nuclear power plant down south of Houston. And so it was involved in, their work is really, you'd take a room full of documents back in those days and here, read these boxes of documents and tell me if this contract is good or bad. And that quickly led me to believe that was not what I wanted to do. Plus, in that law firm, I'd be really, I'd be holding some partner's bag for 5 years before I was allowed to do anything. So although they offered me a job with a great pay right out of law school, I took another job from another summer clerkship at an insurance defense firm, which is essentially the opposite of what I'm doing now. But insurance defense, we had 25 lawyers out in Houston. And when, let's say, Allstate or State Farm or Geico or Progressive had any of their insureds get sued as a result of them being negligent and causing someone to be injured, they would call our law firm to defend their insured in that lawsuit. So that's what I did for 8 years total. Kind of learned it from the defense side, learned from some of the best insurance defense attorneys out there, tried a bunch of cases. And then, but I always knew that working for the insurance company, essentially my job was nothing more than trying to save the insurance company money. And so, so many times I would have, my job was to keep this this very nice plaintiff, this person who had been injured as a result of my client's negligence. My job was essentially to keep them from getting the money that they deserved.
Right.
After doing it for so long, it's like, this is not really the way I want to go through life. And I switched, and all the way back in 1996, it's been a long time now, but back in 1996, I quit my insurance defense practice and opened up my own office. And since then, I've done nothing but represent people who've been injured, and families of people who have been killed due to the negligence of some company or somebody.
Right. Well, I expect it's better for your soul, for sure, doing what you're doing now. I mean, it's not all about the money, of course. And that's got to give you a huge leg up, having that experience, though, working with defending insurance companies, I imagine. So even if that was a tough, not what you wanted to do, but I can't imagine that does give you a huge benefit now for your clients.
Well, it does. And that's, I think that that's one of the things that people are looking for an attorney, just don't realize the importance of the experience and the attorney that they choose.
Right. How often do you think, or I guess what's the percentage do you think that people do have that experience first, that background, before they get into get into PI?
I'd probably say maybe 15 to 20% have that experience. There's a lot of people who get out and just kind of hang a shingle. There's a lot of people who get out, go, maybe they work for, right out of law school, go and work for a plaintiff's firm. That can give you experience, but it's just not going to give you the experience of knowing all the factors that go into the insurance company's evaluation,
right,
into how they evaluate claims. One of the things that I always tell my clients is, I've got the benefit of knowing kind of how to push their buttons,
right,
and knowing their pain points, and knowing, what buttons to push and when to get my client the best result.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is key, is that, that experience is invaluable, and you're not going to get it just coming out of law school and not going into that insurance defense. And believe me, there's a lot of people in insurance defense who are just like me, that after a while they realize the same thing I did, is I don't want to do the insurance company's bidding,
right,
and they end up switching over. So there's, just like me, there's a number of other great plaintiffs lawyers in town and around the country that got their training trying cases for the insurance company.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, there's actuaries that crunch numbers to figure out how much can someone withstand in terms of lawsuits and mitigation, and do we make the change? McDonald's and the temperature of their coffee. Like, well, we can keep the temperature the same, and it's just, we're not going to have another lawsuit like this anytime soon, or they do make the change. But yeah, these are big companies. Well, that's cool though, and I guess fortunately or unfortunately, that's part of our education system too. We go to school, and half what we learn isn't really useful, but we do get to tick things off. Hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, which is, I think part of, when I went to school, I got a business degree, but there were certainly areas. I was a finance degree at first, said, this isn't really what I want to do. I worked with a bank and then moved into marketing, and I've been there ever since. So much to my finance professor's chagrin, he said marketing wasn't a real business, but I've enjoyed it. So are there any cases that you specialize in?
Well, our firm, I would say that our firm, we are a general personal injury type of law firm. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I think any law firm that puts themselves out there as handling personal injury cases, the majority of our cases are motor vehicle accident related, whether that's, a car, the most typical of car accidents or car crashes, trucking accidents, motorcycle, ATVs, you name it, golf carts. but some type of motor vehicle accident type of cases make up the majority of our caseload.
Right.
Probably 70%. The other maybe 20% are premises liability cases, whether it's your most typical of slip and fall or trip and fall cases, and other oddball type of cases that come along, and then we handle some products liability cases, and a smattering of others that are hard to put kind of a name on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's people say there's riches in the niches, but that I think you can only go so far with that. Certainly you can, but you guys are PI. Do you do anything outside of personal injury?
We don't. So it's, personal injury and wrongful death are the type of claims we handle.
Right. Very good. So when it comes to the law, it can be really overwhelming and intimidating, not just for the lawyers having to keep up with everything, but of course, anyone that's facing a lawsuit. So what do you think is the biggest misconception in the marketplace if somebody's thinking to hire an attorney?
Well, there's a couple. First, I think that from talking with my new clients, there's a percentage of those new clients that have this thought in their head that, oh, I'm sure that State Farm or Allstate or Geico will not want to litigate this case. I'm sure they'll just want to settle it. And I think that's probably the biggest misconception people have, is that, oh, I'm sure that they'll want to settle this case. And, there are occasions where they do, but the only reason is because of our bad faith laws here in Florida, kind of make them, treat their insureds in good faith and protect them from getting sued for over and above their policy limits.
Right.
But other than that, they've developed in-house counsel. I mean, I think I was just reading letterhead yesterday. I think it was either Progressive or Geico's in-house counsel just here in Tampa is probably 25 lawyers. So they don't even, for their normal cases, they don't even refer them out to outside counsel anymore, because it's a business. They've found that they can reduce costs, and that's what it's all about for an insurance company, is to keep their costs down, pay as little as possible on each and every claim, and they've developed their own in-house counsel to do that.
Right.
So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I think one of the maybe misconceptions that people shouldn't have, and they don't realize, but I think what we talk about is commoditization of the law practice, where they think, oh, well, let me go, and Tampa's a hyper competitive market for attorneys, and I can't even go home or get in my car and turn on the radio or turn on the TV without seeing lawyer ads over and over and over.
Right.
We're driving down the street and seeing billboard after billboard after billboard, and I think because of that, the average person who doesn't know a lawyer really has kind of been forced to think that, well, they're all the same. It doesn't matter who I call. And so we call that the commoditization of the practice of law, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. Is you might hire a law firm that has 15 or 20 plaintiffs lawyers because you saw an ad that they have on TV, or some that have 100 lawyers or more, and you're not getting that person that's on TV.
Right. That's right.
And you don't know whether you're getting the guy with 25 years experience and a fantastic lawyer, or the guy who is, fresh out of law school and has never tried a case in his life or her life. And that's, I think those are the two misconceptions that I can see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm growing up in California too. That was, I've been in Georgia for 30 years now, but California, that was certainly, early on, a place where there were jokes made about lawsuits, about anything people would sue. And it was a very, very sensitive for a long time about that. And there's certainly a lot of attorneys out there. But I know Florida is, do you know how densely populated the attorneys are in Florida compared to other states? I know it's up there.
It is. I don't know the actual number, but I've got the largest personal injury law firm in the United States. What I'll say, the proverbial, it's in my backyard,
Right.
is right here in Tampa. And so we are, in dealing with all of our SEO companies and over the years and going to various seminars across the nation, I've learned that Tampa really is one of the more hyper competitive markets in the U.S. I mean, I know there's some in other cities, but we're right up there.
Right. What do you think brings on that competition there?
Well, I think that it's unfortunate, but I know that advertising works.
Yeah.
We don't really advertise. We've made it kind of our practice not to advertise, other than if you call our website an advertisement, but I don't really consider that to be true advertising. But we've made our practice out of referrals from other lawyers and doctors and prior clients, and that's how we obtain the largest percentage of all our clients is through referrals. So
right.
But I do know, I mean, it's just a given fact that if you want to advertise, you could have no experience in in doing personal injury cases, and you could advertise and have an office full of cases,
right?
And it would work.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see here.
Yeah.
That's what drives it is when you're going down the main thoroughfare, whether it's I-275 here in Tampa or any of the major highways, and you see billboard after billboard after billboard that might cost $5,000 each, and you see some of these lawyers having 20, 30 different billboards across the region. They do it because it works.
Right. That's right.
Bring it in the business.
Yeah.
So,
I think some of them like to see their name up there too in their picture.
there's some ego involved in that. That's right.
I've seen a few here in Atlanta. We've got some big Attorneys. I think Morgan is here. They're all over, but they're up here too. But all right, cool. So is there a case, like a type of a case that you really enjoy digging into?
Well, the type of case I really enjoy most is where it can be any type of, it can be a auto accident case, it can be a premises liability or a products liability. But the ones that I really like most are helping people who've been horribly hurt, and they really are relying upon me to provide them representation that is going to the end result is going to be, I'm going to be able to get them compensated so that they have money in the future to pay for medical bills. They have money that is going to pay them for all their past medical bills and lost wages. And then of course, pain and suffering on top of that. I love, hiring experts to get into life care plans. As a matter of fact, just got out of a hearing this morning on Zoom, and we were dealing with an issue of an expert I had recently retained to prepare a life care plan for a 40-year-old client of mine who was rear-ended in a fairly mundane car crash, but as a result of a low back injury she had, the life care plan that projects out all of the future amount of medical expenses, and they do it not just the obvious, well, how much will the surgery cost in the future, but How much will all the yearly MRIs cost?
Right.
How much will the medication cost? How
Right.
much will the follow-up visits cost?
Right.
And the defense wants to just kind of brush all that under the table. And you might have, in a regular mundane case, you might have future medical bills exceeding hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's really how you can, by employing the right experts at the right time, is how you can really help your clients get properly compensated.
All right. So, and it gets me thinking about like physical therapists, that has to be part of a lot of this. Can a physical therapist, somebody like that, be a good referral partner, or by the time someone sees a physical therapist, is it too late, or is that still a time when it can work out for getting in touch with you?
I think a good referral partner is typically not the physical therapist, because, my experience has shown that the vast majority, a large percentage of people who've been injured as a result of someone else's negligence,
Right.
End up hiring a lawyer within 1 to 2 weeks after the injury.
Okay.
And so typically the person hasn't even seen a physical therapist yet. So,
right.
But I can tell you that a chiropractor is probably, you've used the word physical therapist, but a chiropractor is typically a great referral source, because, they're seeing that patient within a week or so after a crash. The most typical client of mine gets involved in the crash, goes to the emergency room. Emergency room doctors tell them, hey, if your pain doesn't go away within 5 to 7 days, seek further medical treatment on your own.
Right.
And it usually doesn't. It usually gets worse within those 5 to 7 days. And during those same 5 to 7 days, they're getting calls from insurance adjusters who are most likely telling them things that don't sound correct. And they're getting different, they might be dealing with 3 adjusters, one from their own company, one from the other, a property damage adjuster. And by about that 7-day mark, they're like, I don't want to deal with this on my own. I don't think I can handle this. And that's why they reach out typically at that 1 to 2 week. And then of course, we also see, clients who I'm being contacted by their family members because they are in the ICU, having undergone emergency surgery for some, horrible crash. And so we also get those type of phone calls that it's not, I don't like dealing with this adjuster. It's, I know I'm going to need help with this.
Right. So how often do you talk to somebody and you're just think this just isn't, there's not a case here, or there's maybe somebody's trying to take it a little bit further than they need to? Do you ever run into that?
Yeah, but that's a great question. I in all my years, I really have not run across many people who are trying to scam the system,
right?
Or trying to get more than what they are really deserving.
Right.
I have one that sticks out. It probably happened 7 years ago. I took a phone call from someone who was still at an accident scene, and they were calling our law firm based upon finding us, probably, Googling, I needed a personal injury attorney near me.
Right.
And they're calling me from the accident scene, asking me whether they should go to a hospital. And, I just kind of sat back and I was like, why are you asking an attorney whether you should go to a hospital? Right. And so that's a rare example, but it's happened to me in the past where I have gotten that type of phone call, but that's a very small percent. And most are like, I don't even know if I have a case.
Right.
I don't know if this is worth your time. And those take up the majority of the cases where they're just legitimately they don't know what they're entitled to.
Right.
They don't know what the process is. And, the vast majority of the people out there, especially because they come from referrals from my other clients and referrals from doctors and lawyers, they're typically the type, they're like, hey, I have no idea what I'm entitled to. I don't want more than what I'm entitled to, but I don't want less. And I don't know how to do this. And that's why I'm looking for, you to give me advice.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be scary for someone if they've been in an accident and they don't know. I think most people are generally honest people. And
I do too.
I would have to think that one of the challenges is that there's so much TV. It's all, you see these cases in movies and TV. And so you see these pretty outlandish cases, which may or may not exist somewhere in the world, of course, but that's not the norm, right? So
right. It's I forget the name of the movie, but I can remember years ago, happening to watch some lawyer movie, and the judge tells the lawyer, you're out of line, and the lawyer says, no, Your Honor, you're out of line.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm like, oh, great. That's, now all my clients are going to expect that I'm going to yell at the judge.
Right. Right.
And so it creates these unrealistic type of expectations of what the litigation process is all about.
I think that was A Few Good Men, wasn't it, with Jack Nicholson?
It could have been.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise and Jack
the military.
Nicholson.
Yeah. Great movie, but yeah, I mean, that's these things. You can't imagine they would actually happen. But I was actually on a murder case many years ago, and it was so unlike anything you would see on TV. It was very fast, actually very sad. It was a young girl who she and her friend were up on charges, and the friend turned right in the middle of the first week, and it was only 1 week, and we were done for a murder trial,
right?
Which has to be very unusual. But they had a lot of evidence. But then at the end, we ruled, and the prosecutor came up to us afterward and said, I want you guys to know that you made the right decision. There was information that we couldn't even bring to the court, but that you're absolutely, there's no question that what happened. But that was, but it was so unlike anything. There was nothing, there was nothing glorious about it at all. I mean, it was just, it was interesting to have gone through, but it was very low key, very, just.
I would agree with
TV.
that. I would agree with that characterization that if you go watch the vast majority of trials, it is very low key. It is not exciting. It's not TV worthy. There may be certain moments within a trial that catch someone's attention, but it's definitely not like it is on TV.
Right. Do you ever run into cases though where people are getting, I think of like Webmd, somebody has an ache and they go to Webmd and then they go to the doctor and say, doctor, I think I have this. And then the doctor looks at it and says, well, it's not even close to what you have. But do you ever run into that where people are educating themselves now on the internet and come to you with information that's probably not even close to being helpful?
Well, a little bit, but it's, I can tell you that in my practice, the way our practice works is that when we do get a referral from any source, they're going to meet with me. And in these days of COVID, we may have a Zoom call,
right,
or a FaceTime call, or if they just want a telephone call. But either way, they're going to talk with me. We're probably going to talk for 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to answer all their questions about, the legal process. And then, that's when, I can bring out my experience. I mean, when you do personal injury type of law and personal injury cases for 30 years, I've had to put on and cross-examine neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, chiropractors. So, to be able to cross-examine a neurosurgeon, you've got to have a pretty good understanding of the medicine. And over 30 years, I've got a pretty good understanding of the medicine. And so, they may come in and I ask them questions, well, have you had any type of numbness or tingling into your arms or legs? And they're like, yeah, I have. By the way, I have. I didn't really think anything of it. I didn't connect it
Right.
to my injury, but I got this little bit of numbness and tingling in these couple fingers. And I'm like, well, you make sure you tell your doctor that, because that could be significant. You could have some injury in your neck that's
Right.
creating that ridiculous symptom into your hand. So I listen to my clients and what they have to say, and I can help guide them to the right doctors to go to. And sometimes that's a chiropractor, sometimes it's physical therapy, sometimes it's an orthopedic surgeon, sometimes it's a neurologist. Let's say if they're having post-traumatic migraines, that's the best type of doctor to treat that.
Right.
So it's very fulfilling to be able to kind of guide the client in the right direction.
Right.
And then see, hey, thanks for referring me there. That doctor was great.
Right. So just a couple more questions. You've got 30 years experience here. So what would you tell someone if they're just coming out of law school or considering starting their own practice? What do you wish you had known when you got started?
Well, I think that the one thing that I didn't quite know at the time, but it worked out this way, is, try to figure out early on what you want to do, and then stick with it. And, for me, it was always personal injury, and for lawyers, personal injury has two sides of the fence. You got the plaintiff side, you got the defense side.
Right.
But, for 30 years, I've been in personal injury and haven't done anything else. And you develop an expertise, and that's the one thing I would recommend to someone coming right out of school. Figure out what you want to do, whether it's personal injury, family law, whatever it is. Figure out what you want to do, stick with it, become an expert in that field. Try to get a job right out of law school with someone that is a leader in their field, so that you can get training from some of the best out there. That's probably the number one thing I would recommend, is just get the training from the best that you can, stick with it, stick in the same field, and become an expert and become someone that others recognize as an expert in the field. And the cases will come.
Right. Yeah, there has to be a lot of gratitude, of course. And I mean, in any career, there's gratitude when you become excellent at what you do. So sticking with it instead of bouncing around continues the gratification, even if maybe it gets a little boring or you feel like you're just doing the same thing. But I remember in marketing, there's Dan Kennedy's a big marketer, and he said, if you're not bored of your own story, you haven't stuck with it long enough. So you just need to just stick with it. It's okay. But that's where you start getting to the point of really getting out there, getting known, getting better at what you do. And it doesn't have to be quote unquote boring, but the idea is, I think we tend to have so many distractions. It's easy to go from left to right, but picking a lane and sticking with it is probably the most valuable thing.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
So last question, what advice would you give someone if they're unsure if they have a case, and what's their next thing to do? What should they look to do?
Well, I would say find an attorney that you're actually going to speak with an attorney. Again, I'm going to, as an example, a chiropractor referred a patient of his to me I spoke with last night. Nice young lady, 22 years old, was a horrible crash, had loss of consciousness, but disputed liability. And so she's in college here in Tampa, and she's like, I don't even know if I have a case, but this doctor said, call Mike Hancock. I trust him. He'll get on the phone with you, give you, his best advice. And we probably spent, 20, 25 minutes on the phone. going through the facts of the crash, and although things are kind of stacked against her, it was a situation where I kind of identified a few things. Let's go ahead and do this, this, and this, so that I can make an accurate assessment whether you do have a case that I think we can prevail on. And you know, you're not going to get that when you call a big advertising law firm.
Right.
You know, people have no idea. They see someone on TV. You meant
Right.
the lawyer you mentioned. They see someone on TV. They go, oh, I guess I'm going to talk with that guy. And what you're doing, you're talking with someone in a call center that is a quote unquote intake specialist that has never been to law school, and has no idea about, you know, the law. And they're just taking your information, and then they pass that on to the lawyer. And you may never even get to speak with your lawyer for months. So find, you know, it doesn't matter who it is, but find a lawyer that you can actually speak to.
Right.
And you know, that lawyer is going to be able to kind of ask you all the questions that are absolutely necessary to tell you one way or the other, you know, whether you have a case or not. You know, I don't expect my client to know, you know, what their case, you know, whether they have a good case or a bad case or all the problems with the case. That's my job.
Right.
And so they, you know, best advice is just figure out who you can speak with so that you can speak with an actual attorney, to have the attorney tell you kind of his or her opinion about the case.
Right. That's great. I mean, that's great that you spend that much time with people too, to assess and give them the right direction. Even if you don't know immediately, they have a better sense of where they can go with it. So that's great.
And I think that gets back to, you know, one thing you said is, I think most people are well-intentioned and just nice people. And they have, you know, they're not the lawyers, and they feel they're at a disadvantage when they're up against an army of, you know, Geico adjusters and lawyers. And they're like, I don't know whether I should believe this person or not.
Right.
They're just, the average person is just seeking out, hey, can you tell me whether I have a case and whether it's something you would represent me for?
Right. Right. That's great. Yeah, and it can probably seem very intimidating. It was someone I was speaking to the other day in you know, defense law was saying one of the things people go up against, it's, you know, New York State or wherever, against this person. And I can see just from the very get-go, it's so intimidating, and it's probably, you know, probably done on purpose too, but to some extent. But that's where he said he likes to do, you know, represent that person and just help them out. Yeah,
it's the same way with insurance companies. You know,
I bet
they will, and it's sad, but you know, there's countless examples of adjusters literally, you know, I'll go out and say it, telling my clients lies about what the law is and what they're entitled to.
Right.
And I'll just tell you one kind of you know, story, personal story is, I work in an office building, and, you know, been here for, you know, 15 years. And so I know most of the people in the office building. And one day, you know, another professional who works in the same office building comes, you know, in my office and says, hey, Mike, hey, I'm so sorry, but I just kind of ran into your car as I was pulling into my parking space. And I already got, you know, the insurance company on the line, told them it was my fault. And so I got on the phone, you know, she had the insurance adjuster on the phone, and we agreed to, you know, I'll call you back in about 15 minutes when I get back to my office. And this insurance adjuster just proceeded to tell me things about, you know, well, you have to do this, or we're not responsible for the damage to your vehicle. And I'm like, really? And I just kind of let the adjuster go on and kind of dig a hole for himself or herself. And I said, that's interesting, because that's really not what the law is. And the adjuster says, what do you mean? I said, you don't know this, but this is what I do for a living. And I've done this for, you know, 25 years. And what you just told me was a complete misstatement of the law, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And so, you know, before that, that was really my first example of something like that. And it made me think, if they're doing it to me, of course I knew they were wrong,
Right.
but how many times do they do that to someone who doesn't know better, and doesn't know that they're being taken advantage of? And so, that just kind of furthered my resolve to, help my clients, because that's what we face every single day.
That's right.
It's unfortunate. I tell my clients, hey, look, if the insurance companies did the right thing, I'd be doing some other type of law.
That's right.
But there's a need there. There's so many personal injury attorneys out there because there's a need, because the insurance companies try to take advantage of each and every one of my clients.
Yeah, and I think how many times that does happen. It's happening every day, all day, every day, I'm sure. So that had to be frustrating, but somewhat gratifying too, to be able to tell somebody, no, in fact, I'm an attorney, and this is
right.
That's not what the law
I didn't
says.
pull that card out until the very end.
Which is great. So you just let them keep it coming. Okay. So good. I wonder if they ever change though. Sadly, they probably never really changed. Now maybe they just ask somebody what their career is before they jump in. I don't know. But who knows? So that is too bad. That's good though that you're able to do that. So, all right. Well, listen, Mike, I really appreciate your time. This has been great. A lot of really good information. We're going to post your link everywhere we have the recording back to your site. But what's the best way to get in touch with you if anyone has any questions or needs any help?
Well, probably the easiest way, the name of our law firm is Hancock Injury Attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
And the name of our website, our URL is hancockinjuryattorneys.com. And, just go there. You can get our phone number. You can get my email. If you have any questions, just feel free to give me a call, and I'd be happy to talk with you.
That's great. Always a pleasure. And I look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Take care,
Thanks.
Tom.
Yeah, you bet.